Today I'm going to make Grandma Nancy's noodles. I remember Grandma Nancy showing me how to make these noodles, and I don't have the recipe written down, but it was really simple because it was 1 egg to each cup of flour and just a little bit of salt and a little bit of water. Okay, I'm going to start making the noodles. You start with 1 cup of flour in your bowl. I have a bowl of flour with 2½ cups. I'm using 2 eggs, so I know that I need 2 cups of flour. You always need a little bit more than that when you're rolling something out so that you can powder flour on the surface to keep everything from sticking. So I have 2½ cups in my bowl, and I will just use what I need. There's my first cup. I'm going to make a little well, crack my egg. Okay, I'm going to use my fork to start mixing in my first egg. You can use a whisk or you can use a fork. I haven't decided which one I like best yet, so I'm trying both. I have 1/4 cup of water here, and I'm going to put about 1/3 of it in. Okay, I'm going to put in my 2nd cup of flour. I'm going to put in my big shake of salt. I'm going to put in my 2nd egg. I have this dish rag here, a damp dish rag to wipe my hands with. It just makes things a lot easier. I'm going to put in another 1/3 of the amount of water that I had here. You have to be sure to get the flour around the edges incorporated. Okay, I'm going to need a little more water. Okay, it's starting to really feel like dough now. Okay, I'm going to take it out of the bowl. I'm going to lightly flour the surface. going to try to make my dough just a little bit more smooth. It's still pretty lumpy. It's still a little doughy. Spread out my flour. Tiny little sticky spot over there. Okay, you want it to be between 1/8 and 1/4 inch thick. And this is a very small recipe. Grandma Nancy usually made 4 eggs and 4 cups of flour at a time. That would be for one good sized family meal. Like a regular family, not extended family. That would be for like 4 people. Okay, it's starting to look and feel smooth on the top. I'm going to lift it up once more to make sure that it's not going to stick all over the bottom. It's a little sticky, but not terribly. Just a tiny bit. I'm going to put in just a little bit more flour down here. Okay, I'm going to lay my dough down one more time, and this time I'm going to take my lightly floured rolling pin. Roll out in all directions. I could have worked this dough a little bit more. I should have kneaded it a little bit, I think. But it'll be okay. Okay, I just got off the phone with Mom. I asked her if she actually kneaded the dough or just mixed it all together, and she did not think she kneaded it. And I looked in a recipe book and they did not mention kneading it either. So you just mix the dough together until it all gets incorporated. Then you kind of form a ball with it, lump it together until you form kind of a smooth ball. And then push it down, flatten it out, and roll it out. Mom said that she lets hers rest and dry for a few hours, but it can be as little as 1 or as much as 5. And I'm going to let mine rest for about an hour. I remember that I think Grandma Joy used to use newspaper to roll her dough out on, and I kind of think that that was less sticky than this parchment paper. And Grandma Nancy used to use a brown paper bag that she would cut in half. So I might try one of those next time. Okay, now I'm going to cut the noodles. Now I did not let them dry for probably quite as long as I should have, so I might have to use a little bit of extra flour over the top of the noodles and underneath the noodles. And I'm going to show you how to lift the noodles up so that you can put a little more flour underneath so that everything doesn't fall apart and stick together. Okay, I realize it would have been a good idea for me to take my rings off before I started all this. So when you need to flour underneath it before you cut, you can lift up one side like this and then put some more flour. Just reach in your bowl and put more flour, and then put more flour over here over the top. You don't want them so floury that it's going to affect the taste of the noodle, but there has to be some flour to keep them from sticking together. Okay, now I've floured this bottom, and I'm going to lay this side back, and then I'm going to lift this side up gently, and if anything sticks you can stop and put some flour on it. Lift it up gently and put some flour on it. Okay, so I got that side there. I'll flour on the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to roll the dough. The finer and thinner you roll out your dough into your disc, the more difficult it's going to be to get the noodles to stay together. So I rolled mine out pretty fat because I still think they taste really good. They might not look as pretty. Okay, so you end up with a roll like that. And then you take your sharp knife. I'm going to flour my knife a little bit. Make my first cut. Okay, and if it's impossible to do, you might have to let it dry a little more. There's my second cut. Those are pretty wide noodles, but here you go. You find the end and gently uncurl it. They're a little bit sticky. I should have let them dry longer, but they will still taste good. And I'm always impatient, so this happens every time I make noodles, which I haven't made much lately. But so there's my first noodles. There's my second noodle. Just unroll gently. Like I said, if you floured them well and you let them dry, they'll unroll a lot easier. After unrolling my noodles, I realized that I should have used a lot more flour on the top of them before I rolled them up into a cylinder because they stuck together really bad. But even though they look a little messy, they don't look nice and even and uniform, they're still going to taste delicious. Okay, now that the noodles are made, I'm going to tell you how I usually use them. You can keep them in the refrigerator for a couple days. You can keep them in the freezer for up to a month if you want. And what you do is you make a chicken stock. You boil some chicken along with some celery and some carrots and some onions, a little bit of salt, and then once your broth is completely made, it's all done boiling and it's been simmering, then you bring it back up to a boil and drop your noodles in. And they only take about maybe 7 or 8 minutes to cook. You'll be able to tell by the texture of the noodle when you lift one out with a fork. You can see that it looks like it's cooked. I hope you enjoyed Grandma Nancy's noodles. Thank you. Bye-bye.